This is an actor who has created so many memorable characters and performances over the years, from things like The Office to The 40-Year-Old Virgin, and then seemed to segue effortlessly into dramatic roles like Little Miss Sunshine and Dan in Real Life. Still, I doubt even his biggest fans were prepared for his transformative, breathtaking work in Foxcatcher. Please welcome Steve Carell.
Steve Carell has often cited George Carlin as a pivotal figure in shaping his comedic instincts.
Not only is the item gone, but you're catching heat from up here. You what? I lost my yo-yo!
Growing up in Massachusetts in the 1970s, Carell gravitated towards sharp-witted humor, and Carlin's stand-up albums were both a revelation and a resource. He was brilliant with words, Carell told Rolling Stone. He had this rhythm, this way of building a bit like a piece of music. Carlin's meticulous approach to language, his ability to pick apart social norms, taboos, and hypocrisy, offered Carell a framework that valued intelligence as much as laughter. Carlin's 7 words you can never say on television routine particularly resonated with Carell, not because of its vulgarity, but because of its precision.
And I wanted to know the ones that you could never say on television. I mean the filthy words that are always filthy. There are a lot of these little two-way, double entendre words that have 2 meanings, words that are okay part of the time. I call them like part-time filth.
He wasn't just trying to be shocking, Carell explained in a 2008 NPR interview. He was holding a mirror up to society and showing us how absurd we all are. This fusion of satire and substance left a lasting imprint on Carell, who would later incorporate subtle social commentary into his own work, whether through the excruciating silences of The Office or the emotional complexities of Foxcatcher. Carlin's influence made Carell appreciate comedy that challenged its audience, not just entertained it. This respect for layered performance led him to other comic actors who mastered the balance between absurdity and insight. If Carlin taught Carell to deconstruct language and society, John Cleese taught him how to stretch the absurd to its logical and illogical conclusion.
Then you can pretend that you're only doing it because these enemies of yours are such very bad persons. And that if it wasn't for them, you'd actually be good-natured and courteous and rational all the time.
There was a lunacy to Cleese that I adored, Carell said in an interview with Esquire. He could be completely unhinged one moment and then incredibly articulate the next. Watching Fawlty Towers as a teenager, Carell became entranced by the escalating chaos Cleese orchestrated from seemingly trivial misunderstandings. Cleese's portrayal of Basil Fawlty, constantly at war with both guests and reality itself, offered a masterclass in comedic tension. Carell once remarked, Cleese could make a 5-second pause feel like a monologue. That ability to use silence, timing, and physicality would later inform Carell's portrayal of Michael Scott, a character equally prone to overreactions, desperate recoveries, and uncomfortable improvisation.
I declare bankruptcy!
In Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Cleese brought a theatrical gravity to utter nonsense, a technique Carell embraced. He said, "I love how the Pythons could act like they were doing Shakespeare and say the most ridiculous thing with a straight face. That's gold." This commitment to absurdity, with discipline, became a cornerstone of Carell's own comedic technique. Carell's appreciation for characters who collapse under the weight of their own delusions sparked his admiration for actors who infused their performances with deeper contradictions. Steve Carell has repeatedly named Dr. Strangelove and Being There among his favorite films.
Mr. President, I would not rule out the chance to preserve a nucleus of human specimens.
Peter Sellers could disappear into a character in a way that didn't feel like acting. It was like shape-shifting, he said in a discussion for the New York Times. Sellers' facility for inhabiting wildly different personas in a single film, especially in Dr. Strangelove, left Carell awestruck. That was the movie that made me want to try everything: comedy, drama, accents, all of it. In Being There, Sellers portrays Chance the Gardener with such vulnerability and control that Carell found himself deeply moved. "It's the quietest film performance that still manages to scream," he observed. The lesson wasn't just in versatility, it was in the discipline to let a character breathe. For Carell, Sellers became a blueprint, someone who could play 3 roles in a satire about nuclear war one year and the embodiment of innocence the next. During the press tour for The Big Short, Carell was asked which actor he studied for the role. His answer, Peter Sellers, always Peter Sellers. You can learn everything you need to know about tone from him. This obsession with nuance led Carell to seek out other performers who understood how restraint could be just as powerful as exuberance. Halfway through his career, Steve Carell began to reflect more openly on the people who helped form his sensibilities. Steve Martin wasn't just a performer, Carell told The Hollywood Reporter, he was a thinker. In Martin's heyday, his absurdist persona often hid a conceptual rigor. He could wear a white suit and bunny ears and still look like he was making a philosophical point. Carell admired Martin's ability to be silly with precision. From The Jerk to Roxanne, Martin fused physical comedy with carefully structured scripts, something Carell tried to emulate. The first time I saw Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, I thought, this is someone who has studied everything that came before and figured out a way to play with it. More than just technique, it was Martin's reinvention that inspired Carell. When Martin pivoted to more dramatic roles in films like Grand Canyon and Shop Girl, Carell took notice. I think we all want to stretch, but he actually did it, Carell said. He wrote novels, he played music. That kind of curiosity is what keeps you from getting bored. Martin's refusal to be pinned down emboldened Carell to pursue roles in Little Miss Sunshine, Foxcatcher, and Beautiful Boy, performances that showcased a far more restrained, introspective presence. That creative courage influenced how Carell thought about career longevity, pushing him to admire those who found ways to evolve without losing their core. Steve Carell's comedy might look effortless, but it's built on a deep respect for precision, structure, and surprise. Do you agree with his influences so far? Are there others you think shaped his work even more? Let us know in the comments, and keep watching for the final name on his list, someone who influenced a younger Steve Carell in a more unexpected way. Before the scandals that permanently altered his legacy, Bill Cosby was a mainstay of American comedy, and one of the first comedians Steve Carell ever paid attention to.
Jesus Christ! And my brother Russell thought his name was Dammit. Dammit, will you stop all that noise? Jesus Christ, sit down!
I had this old vinyl of Why Is There Air that my parents let me play, Carell said in an interview with Parade magazine. I didn't even know what half the jokes meant, but his delivery fascinated me. Cosby's influence was more technical than thematic. Carell admired the rhythm of Cosby's storytelling, the way he could draw an audience in with pauses, misdirection, and vocal inflection. He would build up this whole elaborate scene, and the punchline would be so small and perfect. That taught me about patience, Carell explained. During his early days at the Second City, Carell tried emulating that slower tempo. You learn to wait with the audience. You don't always have to rush to the joke, he said. The principle carried over into his later work, particularly in scenes where silence became a comedic tool, whether it was an awkward pause in The Office or a heavy moment in The Morning Show. But Cosby's downfall in the public eye forced Carell to reassess the legacy of his heroes. It's difficult, he admitted during a panel at the Montclair Film Festival. You can't separate what you know now, but you also can't pretend that person didn't influence you when you were 13. This complex reckoning with influence and accountability shaped how Carell talks about legacy, an issue increasingly relevant in an industry always looking back while trying to move forward. Although not always top of mind in popular lists, Charlie Chaplin has quietly exerted an influence on Carell's approach to physical comedy and silent expression. In several interviews, including with The Independent and CBS Sunday Morning, Carell spoke of watching City Lights and Modern Times and being struck by how much could be conveyed without a single line of dialogue. He could make you laugh and then make you cry, all in one close-up. Carell's characters often occupy that same emotional range. In The 40-Year-Old Virgin, Andy's heartbreak is as sincere as his clumsiness. In Dan in Real Life, the sadness beneath the smile lingers. Chaplin was the master of melancholy, Carell observed. I always loved that comedy didn't have to be loud, sometimes it's just someone sitting there thinking. That Chaplin-esque quality has become more pronounced in Carell's later work, especially in roles where he plays conflicted or emotionally repressed men. In Beautiful Boy, his performance drew praise not just for its restraint, but for its ability to evoke deep feeling through minimal gestures. That's where Chaplin comes in, Carell said. You let the silence carry it. Chaplin's influence didn't replace the others. It refined them, completing the circle that began with Carlin's verbal dexterity and Sellers's chameleon-like skill. Carell's admiration for these performers, spanning stand-up to silent film, shaped his career not just as a comedian, but as a storyteller willing to evolve.